Okay, now we're at exercise 15. This exercise is going to talk about something that you know about, but not how to do in a programming language. You know about files. You've been editing files probably since you've been using a computer. You know about folders and you know about directories. Hopefully you've gone through the command line crash course at the end of this book, and you know about that if you don't already. And in this exercise, we're actually going to open files in a programming language and work with them. So this is going to be pretty easy. I mean, basically, you just write the right commands and you open the files and you work with them. But there's some odd things about files based on their history in computer science. So I'm going to type this code in. I'm going to go through it really quick and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so what we have now is a script that opens a file and then basically reads it. It's pretty simple. If I start at the top, we have your familiar argv that we've been using for command line stuff. So now we know that this script takes command line options. This here, this sort of weird open that we have, it's another function. It's kind of like your raw input, but this time it's going to take the input from a file name. So you hand it a file name, and it gives you a thing called a file. Now, this isn't the contents to the file. It's sort of a reference to the file. And then we're doing this odd thing right here where we take that variable that we made on line 5, and we're telling it to read itself. That sounds odd, but you'll get this later on as you just continue. Again, another one of these things where you kind of have to just do this. In order to understand it, you'd have to know more programming. So you kind of just do this, and then it'll become clear as you go through the book. Then just to demonstrate what you can do with this, we also use a raw input to get the file, and then also do the text read from the raw input. So let's run this. And really quick, I'm just going to show you a quick thing. So it's a test file thing. So that's a way to make a test file. Now, you sort of should have learned this from the command line crash course, but now I have that phrase in the test file. And really simply, we just do python ex15.py test.txt. Now, in the exercise in the book, read the exercise in the book. It's done a little differently. So I'm giving you a different demo. I'm going to show you why. So here's your file, and there's the name, test.txt. So that matches with this file name we have here. That's the file name, and we got the file name. Now, you already know this. It's just from argv. We did an open, and then the print that you see here, that stuff, comes from the text.read. Okay? Now we're at this point where we say type the file name again. So I'm going to type it again. And it printed it out again. So 2 different ways to do that. Now keep in mind, this is what we call orthogonal, meaning you can use one part without the other part. I don't need to use raw input to then open a file. I could put the file name, file again, or file name in just a plain string. I could actually just do this. I could get rid of all this code up here and replace it with file name equals test.txt. And it would still work. So remember, all you're doing with the raw input and the argv is setting a variable. And then you're using it. So to use open, you just need a variable. Now the reason why I did a different file is I'm going to show you. If I just do this, and then rerun the script, there you go. That should cement that I'm actually reading that file, that text file. I just edited it using my editor Vim. You could use Notepad and do the same thing. And then I'm printing it out. And also at this stage, I could actually do this. Consider this a brain teaser. What did that just do? Go figure that out. Go find out what I just did. All right, that's the end of exercise 15. Remember, you go through this and run it. And there's a long study drills I want you to do because it's very useful. It's going to show you a way to break down a piece of code you don't understand. This is really important when you get into other people's code. If you wrote the code, you tend to know how it got the way it is. But with this method, you'll actually be able to break down a piece of code you don't understand and translate it to English. And how you're doing it is you're adding comments, you're doing things like translating it on the fly. So do that. And then from now on, whenever you run into a problem with a piece of code that you don't quite understand, just simply go in and do this English comments thing. Put comments above it, or even if you don't speak English, whatever language you like to use, just put it at the top, translating it into things you understand from the code. And incidentally, that's another way to write code. Write out comments for what you want the code to do, then put the code under it. I did that for years until I got more fluent in code. All right, see you on exercise 16.